Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, today we're going to talk a little bit more about that new thing the Army's getting. We're going to do this because in that first video, I relied heavily on technical data to try to get the point across. I don't think it worked. A whole bunch of questions came in. So, we're going to kind of go through them because even though it was 40 or 50 questions, it was really only 3 questions, just phrased differently. And we're going to go over those. And the other thing is that really, once we go over 2 of them, you're already going to know the answer to the third. So we're going to go through that. And then I'm going to read another comment that was sent to me and talk about it a little bit just so everybody can kind of end on a laugh. Okay, so how are civilians getting it first? And if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Army's getting a new rifle. Okay, this is normal. This is normal. What happens is DOD says, hey, gun companies, we need a gun that does X, Y, and Z. And gun companies come up with a design to fit that criteria. And then those designs are tested. Those that are rejected typically end up produced on the civilian market. In this case, the company that happened to win the competition and have their rifle selected had already made the decision to put it on the civilian market. So that's how that's happening. By the time I talked about it, even if they hadn't released it early, it would already be in the works to be released to the civilian market under normal circumstances. The other 2 questions is why is this going to change things so much, and why is the Army changing rifles to begin with? If you understand why the Army's changing rifles, you'll understand why it's going to change things domestically. Basically, the Army realized that during Afghanistan there were a lot of engagements that were testing the limits of what the 5.56 round, the AR platform, what it was capable of doing. Ranges were being exceeded and stuff like that, so they needed a new round. They wanted the American warfighter to be able to reach out and touch someone. So that's where the new bullet came from. New bullet, you need a new platform. That's where the new rifle came from. So what the Army really wanted was something that had increased range. Now, this also has to do with us shifting to near peers. So what they really kind of asked for was something that had a greater range than expected opposition weapons. And they found it. By the data that's been released, it looks like in a combat scenario, the American soldier will be able to fire at somebody about a football field further than they will be able to fire at them. So they have to close about 100 yards before they're in range, so they can use their weapon. That's a huge advantage in long-range engagements. Historically, these ranges aren't actually reached in most modern combat. Now, I know that the gun nerds are going to be down below, and they're going to tell you, no, it's more than a football field. And that's true, but that's for range conditions, perfect conditions, not necessarily combat. But that's a huge advantage. The other thing is they wanted a weapon that had enough power to be effective against body armor, because near peers are likely to provide their troops with body armor, something that non-state actors normally don't have. So this rifle will be more effective at countering body armor. When do these incidents domestically, when do they stop? When the cops show up, right? That may not be the case anymore, because the weapon in hand may be more capable of defeating body armor. All of the technical specs that I gave, also, it's going to be more horrifying. This is a much more powerful weapon, and it's in a compact package that's just as easy to maneuver. So that's going to shift the dynamic because the live streams are going to be more graphic. The footage that comes out is going to be more graphic. And then it's not going to end the way that it has been because that they may decide to engage. And that's just going to alter the debate even more. Okay, so now let's get to something to bring a little bit of levity to this. You're a typical really mean word for liberal who knows nothing about guns. I bet you think AR stands for assault rifle. Actually, it stands for Armalite rifle. The gun crowd, as you call us, isn't going to buy the new rifle because it's too heavy and will be too hard to carry. You blame shootings on gun owners, and that's stupid. You're the reason America is failing and has been since liberals took over after World War II. Our country's peak was during World War II. It was a country that had real men who would storm the beaches of Normandy. You and today's men are too weak for that. And then it goes into a profanity-laden rant questioning my orientation. So I'm just going to kind of run through some high points here. Actually, it stands for Armalite rifle. Actually, it probably doesn't. It probably just stands for Armalite, the first two letters, AR. The product catalog, if you look at it, everything from Armalite starts with AR, including things that aren't rifles, like their shotguns or their kits to be inserted into the Mark 19 grenade launcher. They were designated with AR as well. So, actually, it's probably not that. Remember that part about the rifle? They won't buy it because it's too heavy and will be hard to carry. You blaming shootings on gun owners is stupid. Who should I blame them on? Non-gun owners? I mean, that doesn't make sense. This whole time, y'all been saying guns don't kill people. People kill people. I'm blaming the people. Y'all are the ones that fostered this culture. Yeah, it's on you. You're the reason America is failing and has been since liberals took over after World War II. Our country's peak was during World War II. Yes, under the leadership of renowned conservative FDR. What? FDR is kind of viewed as the father of modern progressivism. Just so you know, the period that you're looking back to as America's peak was brought about by a liberal, to use the terminology you want to use. Was a country that had real men who would storm the beaches of Normandy. I do not understand why storming the beaches of Normandy has become synonymous with all of World War II, but whatever. You and today's men are too weak for that. Fun fact from somebody who doesn't know anything about guns. The rifle that most American soldiers carried as they stormed the beaches of Normandy was the M1, which weighed in at 9.5 pounds. That was its base weight, which is more than the one that you said you didn't want to buy because it was too heavy and too hard to handle. So, I mean, I found that entertaining. I don't think that I personally am responsible for America's decline, which is what it says here. You're the reason America is failing. Now, I think America is failing because a whole lot of people want to demonize education. And they are supremely confident in their ignorance. And they fall for nostalgia for a period in time in which they weren't even alive. Your view of the 1940s and 50s, that's not based on your own experiences. It's based on TV shows you saw when you were a kid. You watched nostalgic TV shows that painted this period in a great light and believed that's what it was. There's no way that you got your impression of the 1940s and 50s from reading history books if you believe that FDR was a conservative. You got it based on this TV image that was manufactured for a feel-good era. That's it. That's not real life. The world is going to move forward. It will continue to move forward. You can keep up or get left behind. And most of us don't really care anymore. It is the gun crowd's fault. It's the gun crowd's fault. This culture, the rhetoric that's constantly used, the constant endorsement of violence for anything, that's why this is happening. It's absolutely the gun crowd's fault. The idea that the gun makes the man. I don't know who else you want to blame. From a group of people who always talk about personal responsibility, you don't really seem to like to carry that weight yourself. I guess it weighs more than 9 pounds. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.